Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, we're going to talk about a new report stating that Daniel Bryan has signed an AEW contract.
Who could have predicted this? CM Punk looks to be making an in-ring wrestling return.
We'll tell you everything you need to know from Dynamite this week, including title changes and debuts.
And a major spoiler on Samoa Joe's in-ring status with WWE. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray. You alright there, mate?
Yeah, sorry, mate. Just a bit tired. Tired of being right all the time. This is the news.
Let's kick this thing off by talking about Daniel Bryan. We spoke about him a little bit yesterday, of course, or Tuesday, whatever the heck it was, covering a report on his internal status in WWE and how there was an internal belief within WWE that Bryan may be on his way to AEW. Well, guess what? We've got a report to that effect today. A couple of reports, actually, from Cassidy Haynes of BodySlam.net. One of his sources within AEW has informed him that a deal has already been struck. Daniel Bryan is locked into AEW. He is 100% signed, according to this report. And he had some interesting things that he asked for as part of the negotiations, some conditions that he wanted to sign. According to the report, he wanted to work a more relaxed schedule for comparable money. He wants the freedom to wrestle in Japan and a degree of creative control regarding his character. Apparently, reading this report, they agreed, AEW did, to the creative control. The other ones are up in the air, but you'd imagine that if he's going to AEW, you'd have freedom to wrestle in Japan at very least. So working with New Japan, for goodness sake. Come on, man. Another report here following up on the situation, talking about when Bryan might debut. Bit of a spoiler here, so maybe, I don't know, mute for the next 20 seconds or whatever. New York City, Arthur Ashe Stadium, September 22nd. That is the planned debut night for Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, or whatever his American Dragon, Tony Bone, whatever his ring name's going to be when he comes out of all this. But that's where we are. He hasn't been in wrestling, obviously, since the 30th of April when he lost to Roman Reigns on SmackDown. He became a free agent shortly after that. I said on this very channel earlier this week that I still kind of lean towards WWE, but it kind of drifts away every single time a new story comes out. And here we are. Looks like he's on his way. Big stuff, and this story broke just before Dynamite as well. So that's good stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely, a B+ player going to a B+ promotion. I'm joking. Jesus, calm down, comment section. I just saw some idiot say that online earlier and just get absolutely torn to pieces. So I thought, we'll just throw out a little bit of bait. Look, this is fantastic news, of course. Whether you want to see more of Daniel Bryan in WWE, I would have happily taken that. Or whether you want to see him in AEW, there's so many mouth-watering encounters, like you've said there, Andy. Whether it be in AEW or the fact that when working with AEW, I know WWE were like, oh, maybe we should do something with New Japan. That was never going to happen, let's be perfectly honest. You can do stuff, obviously, with all the stars of AEW. You can go do New Japan stuff. He could even appear on Impact Wrestling. Who bloody knows? But this is so exciting. It's just a great time to be a wrestling fan right about now, isn't it, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much going on. I was thinking to myself last night when the story you were about to discuss came out, man, isn't it mental how CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and Brock Lesnar are all free agents technically at the same time? Now, obviously, you expect Brock Lesnar to go back to WWE, but it's just mad to think that these, three of the biggest names in wrestling over the past couple of decades are just right there. Very exciting time indeed. Luke, whatever you think of, why am I starting that point? That's to do with your story. You should probably talk about CM Punk before I talk about CM Punk. Let's do that.
Yeah, well, I hate to say I told you so. No, I don't actually. I love doing that. Told you so.
Victory
CM
lap.
Punk's returning to a goddamn wrestling ring. I predicted this. I said it was going to happen last year, granted, but I didn't account for the ongoing global bastard, so I'll allow a few months difference for that, or a whole year, let's be perfectly honest. But according to Sean Ross Sapp, no crap, just Sapp of Fightful Select, yes, he has been in serious talks, CM Punk that is, not Sean Ross Sapp, over returning to the wrestling ring. 7 years since we last saw him in an official match, that being, of course, as an entrant in the 2014 Royal Rumble. Yes, he did stuff on Backstage in 2019 for WWE, but as we've alluded to previously, Tony Khan has teased something huge for AEW's Grand Slam special. Maybe it could be CM Punk. Sean Ross Sapp, in his write-up of this story, does seem to suggest that if he's leaning one way or another when it comes to WWE or AEW, it is that CM Punk may well be all elite. You wait a while for a story about a returning legend of wrestling, and then two come along at once, Andy.
I know, could they not space these out a little bit, you know? Could we not get like Daniel Bryan to report on one week and then Punk the next? The content would be streaming all the way through. Instead, we've got to spaff our load up the wall on one day. It's no good, it's disrespectful, AEW, or wherever these people end up signing. The Punk thing is huge. It's legitimately huge. I understand that a lot of people have lost, a bit of favour in CM Punk. Like, some people have soured on him over the past few years, and I understand why that is. I get that completely. But objectively, there is no name on the free agent market that is going to pop business immediately like CM Punk. He's been gone 7 odd years. He's still this massive cult figure, still a big favourite of many people. You bring that guy in and he immediately improves your business, your ratings and everything else, especially if you are AEW. He appeals to that base of fans, I think, maybe a little bit more. He's a bit more in tune with that kind of pro wrestling fan than the majority of the WWE audience, I think. So, yeah, I mean, this is super exciting. I hope both of them do show up somewhere, because big things happening in wrestling is fun and exciting and it's great, and it's what makes the sport so much fun. And I can't wait to see what these guys do next.
Yeah, quick aside, keep crying, haters. When have I ever been wrong?
I love a victory lap on a Thursday morning. Let's move over to last night's Dynamite. We're not going to spend ages on this, but we'll talk about the biggest news stories coming out of it. The debut of Nick Gage. He's going to face John Moxley. He's going to face Chris Jericho in the next Labour of Jericho next week. No DQ match. Jericho's bringing back the Painmaker. Gage was brought out by MJF. I popped huge for that. Personal favourite of mine, Nick Gage. And whatever you say about Nick Gage and his past and everything else, that guy has the kind of crowd connection that 99.99% of the wrestlers on the planet do not have. It's going to be awesome. Chavo Guerrero's in AEW now. I did not expect that. Did not expect that. He is replacing his aunt, by the looks of things, Vicky Guerrero, who is no longer serving as Andrade El Idolo's executive consultant. Chavo is in. Got a little promo last night, playing up to the crowd and everything else. Feud continued with Death Triangle as well. And then in the main event of the evening, Texas Death Match, Lance Archer takes the IWGP US title from Jon Moxley. Brutal, bloody match that the lads will review on the podcast. Moxley took the title from Archer in New Japan 18 whole months ago, so there's some nice circle stuff going on there. But yeah, another newsworthy episode of Dynamite with the debuts and the title change. The show, last night's show, I don't think quality-wise was as good as last week's, but they're still getting people talking and they're still playing out in front of hot crowds. So that keeps
Jon Moxley unable to answer a 10 count, not only because he got put through a table, because he was stuck to a load of barbed wire. Yes, congratulations to Lance Archer. Who could have predicted that as well? I mean, sure, maybe one of the Dadleys, but not this chump. Surely not. Yeah, that's 2 for 2 for Wilborn today. I'm very happy about that. Great to see Chavo Guerrero in AEW. Great to see that mustache, particularly, as you alluded to, Andy, on Twitter. And very rare that I say, I saw this happen in wrestling and thought of Andy Murray and Jim Cornette simultaneously. But yeah, Nick Gage being brought out by my best friend MJF was quite the moment on last night's Dynamite. As Andy said, we're going to be reviewing it, WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from, for myself and the Daddy Boys take on it. And of course, Simon Miller will be back here later on today with all of his ups and downs. Let's conclude today by talking about Samoa Joe, and a bit of a spoiler. I suppose you can probably guess where this one is going, though, because he is going to be returning to the wrestling ring on Sunday, the 22nd of August. They flip-reversed it like Blazing Squad when it comes to the main roster and NXT pay-per-views for that weekend. SummerSlam on 21st, the Saturday. Takeover 36 on the 22nd of August. Yes, he is going to be facing Karrion Kross for the NXT title. This is reported by the Wrestling Observer, Figure 4 Online. Off the back of NXT's tapings, they've taken the next couple of weeks because they're going to be on Sci-Fi, because the Olympics and speed climbing and all that bollocks. But yeah, Samoa Joe back in the wrestling ring. No great surprise here, Andy. But I reckon he could well be the guy to take that title off Karrion Kross.
Yeah, especially with the way things are going for Karrion Kross on the main roster at the moment. Yeah, for sure. Another exciting piece of wrestling news breaking overnight. And look, WWE may have flip-reversed the takeover format like Blazing Squad, but if he beats Karrion Kross, Samoa Joe could be leaving with a Goldie-looking belt. There we go.
Very nice. Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions.
I suck so much.
WhatCulture, WWE, of course, we want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Matt Shinnery, who says, hate to sound like a spoil sport, but are we seeing too much claret on AEW Dynamite? Or after years of being subjected to the PG era, does it seem more bloody than it actually is? Should it be saved to keep its dramatic effect? I mean, Lance Archer was pissing blood everywhere in last night's main event. But then again, Andy, was a Texas death match in Texas.
That's what happens when you take a fork to a guy's face. I don't think there's too much blood. I do think that there's a case of, well, the WWE hasn't done blood intentionally, apart from a few isolated incidents, for decades. So I do think it feels like, the contrast there definitely makes the difference between the two products seem a bit more vast. No, I think there's a fine level of blood on the show, honestly. Like, unless there's clear-cut evidence that you can point towards to show that this is driving viewers away rather than pulling them in, I don't think there's any reason to change anything.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Andy. I think there was a bit last year where I thought they'd just going for it on every sodding show. There was one where Cody got busted open, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I think in a title defense against Jungle Boy. And I thought we didn't really need to do that at that spot there between these two. But regardless, I think within reason, they're doing it. And like you say, unless it gets rid of viewers, then carry on, lads. The fork to the head is still... I mean, you've got Nick Gage coming up next week. They're hardly going to pull back on it now, are they? Sweet Jesus.
Someone's getting light-tubed.
Oh, I hate light tubes. Are the worst thing in wrestling. Right, the second question today comes from Henry Morgan, who says, hey guys, what do you think of Britt Baker facing Serena Deeb in Pittsburgh and it ending in a double turn?
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. Michael Hamflett, I believe he's already fantasy booked this on a podcast with the fine fellas, but he's just fantasy booked it to me in the audience as well. Setting up next week with the QT Marshall, Tony Schiavone angle. I think it's a great idea. Serena Deeb is an absurdly good pro wrestler. I put her over every time I speak, so why not do it again? I think she's been, for me, the best American-based women's wrestler in America this year. She's been absolutely fantastic every time she steps through the ropes. I think it's a great idea. Britt would obviously be hugely over in Pittsburgh. Let's do it. Why the hell not?
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, we can't take credit for this angle. Hamflett booked this weeks ago, and he's even suggested today, I believe, that we should obviously have a Serena Deeb CM Punk reunion if he signs with AEW. Yes, please. Yes, please. All of that. Final question today comes from Mark Solid, who says, morning, guys. Irish accent optional. I mean, I'm obviously...
Here he goes.
Take that.
Get your cancellation forms out.
Option, Andy. Top of the morning, guys. Thoughts on eventually having a Firefly Funhouse match with Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch. They could even do a callback to the Rosebuds in NXT. The dogs say hi. First of all, good dogs, of course. But what do you reckon? Firefly Funhouse match, Bliss versus Lynch.
It's
2 for 2 over the last couple of days, isn't it?
I'm always getting ruined by the last questions. Personally, I'm not into anything this Alexa Bliss character does, so it's not for me, but I think a lot of people would be into that, for sure.
Yeah, but I think, to be honest, I think the Firefly Funhouse match should be Bray's thing, because he did it so perfect. They should have done it this year. Yeah, it was an open goal. Look at Randy Orton's history with his jizzy handshakes. Do that!
Pooping in bags.
Sake. But yeah, I just... in a weird way, I hope it's Bliss versus Ripley, because I love the way Ripley just no-sold all that bollocks at the Rumble and just went, out you go! So,
Alexa Bliss, F off. That was good stuff. Good stuff.
Right, let's move on to today's and finally. And I just wanted to give a nod from all of us here at WhatCulture to the legend that is David Arquette. He got a bad rap back in the day. He has more than made up for it. Obviously, not only at the time, all the money he made wrestling for WCW, he gave to wrestlers' families. Brian Pillman, am I right in thinking?
Yes, sir.
And Owen Hart's family, if I'm not mistaken. All that money went to them, basically, from the money he made in WCW. He's made a fantastic documentary about him returning to a wrestling ring and nearly getting killed by Nick Gage, which you should go and check out. And he popped up on Family Feud relatively recently, I assume. This just popped up on Reddit Squared Circle. Did you see his team, Andy?
I did not.
His team, David Arquette with the World Heavyweight, with a big gold belt, flanked by Peter Avalon, Dalton Castle, RJ City, and Jungle Boy. I don't know about you, but it's a Family Feud episode I am definitely going to be checking out this afternoon.
Oh man, that sounds like the best winning team since the Italian national squad a few weeks ago.
bastards. No, congratulations to Italy. Fantastic result for them. Still coming home eventually. That's just taking a bit of a detour. Right, let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Watch there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at...
You can follow me at Andy H. Murray, and the H stands for hey, don't get annoyed by the football stuff. It's just banter, but it's unlike Lassie and Kevin McAllister's parents, it's never coming home.
And you can follow me and apologise for doubting me when I said CM Punk was going to be returning to a wrestling ring at Adam Wilbur. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Acknowledge him, or whatever side he's on.
Where are you?
Do that.